And so this idea of reopening schools, um, the idea that there's an alternative of opening schools outside, and me and you looked over a PBS segment as well as an article that was in the Atlantic talking about this. And so, from a teacher perspective, and as a member of the community, what do you think about this idea of opening schools outdoors?
Well, in other words, like there are situations around the country that they could have already been doing outdoor education. In other words, I'm not again. I think outdoor education is a good idea. It should be used more. That we use our environment. I take our students outside, even teaching theater tech. I take them outside so that way they can hear the environment and get like, okay, like you have to walk around the community, and that we literally walk them around the community. They've walked around a billion times, but now it's like you have to write down what you think, what you're thinking, what you hear, and what you feel. And so by taking them through that process, they start to see their community a little bit differently. Now, that said, there's a lot of dope ideas to get people outside, but I mean, like, that's not a solution for the broad swath of schools. That's going to solve our problem, because our primary issue is that if we're going to do split education, that's going to require a lot more money and a lot more teachers, because in the beginning of this, we were all just hit with, and most, or at least most of the teachers that I worked with had, well, all of our school, but just in general, had stepped up in some way to make sure that things happen. Our school, I felt like I felt lucky at the way that things happened, because it wasn't the kind of chaos that a lot of schools dealt with, even though I teach in the South Bronx in one of the poorest schools in the district. The idea is that we were more technically flexible now, so we were looking for best practices versus the idea of a lot of teachers were doing, or a lot of administrations had told other teachers in other schools that, well, look, we're just trying to get through this. If you're trying to get through, then you're just going to do whatever as stopgap solutions, versus the idea of creating things that, like, now we've built a huge arsenal of virtual tools to be able to use in the fall. Now, none of those tools are going to, for the most part, be utilized in the northern states. So then, even in their example in the video, you notice that when they said, well, they started talking about 1918. And if you got to go back to 1918 to prove your point, that's a problem. Because they said, like, even in Chicago, they did classrooms outside year round. It's like, yeah, but that's also, they didn't have heat inside. Like, all schools weren't heated then. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that didn't happen. I mean, the last time there was a global pandemic, there wasn't, most houses didn't have running water. A lot of places didn't have proper sanitation. A lot of places didn't have electric yet. No TV, no radio, no cars, no buses. I mean, so, like, to make the idea that they use that reference, to me kind of was just like, wow, you're going all over the place to prove your point. In other words, like, outdoor education, good. The idea that it would be applicable even in southern states, in areas like, I can only imagine some classes that I have, or that I know that have to be taught, transferring that outside to all the distractions of outside. Because there's distractions. Like, our field outside is a triangle, a big triangle, well, kind of an odd angle. And but point being is the idea that, like, On the outside of it, we have junkies that are walking around on a regular basis. We have all kinds of other things that are happening. You know, you got people that are hawking at women and young girls. You know, these are the realities of like what we'd have to do
And
to
what
have
about the environmental aspects of it? Because we don't know if people have asthma, whatever conditions they have, and in certain communities where the bus depots and all these other things.
Well, that was another issue I was going to bring up too. Is the idea that even in the environments that we have, like because I was bringing up the physical things first,
Right.
but the idea of just the air outside alone, the idea that you're going to take kids outside, at least inside of our school, the air is filtered in some way.